Hello, and welcome to Living with a Leukodystrophy. My name is Carol Cross, and I'm your host. We're back in the studio today, again with our guest, Miss Laura Cross. Hello, Laura.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Fine.
That's good. And in today's episode, we're going to take some questions from a viewer named Jerica, who lives here in Iowa, same place, same state we live in. And her questions are really a follow-up, some follow-up questions in regards to the video that we did yesterday, our episode 5, where we showed what it was like for a person living with a leukodystrophy who uses a wheelchair to just go for a walk at the park. So what that entailed and what kind of accessibility features and equipment and everything was just required for that. So we talked about that in episode 5. If you haven't watched that, it's there for you. And Jerica's questions are in response to episode 5. Okay, so are you ready, Laura?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you these questions that Jerica from Iowa posed about accessibility. Okay? Okay, so Jerica wrote, what are the biggest obstacles with regards to accessibility in your mind? What are some of the biggest obstacles? What about parking?
Well, sometimes Mom has to go out the parking lot and let me off and just
Why would your mom have to drop you off and then go park? Why would she have to do that?
Because the stripe of the parking, the handicap parking spot open.
Okay, so you mean the striped section
Yeah.
that's right next to a handicap parking
Yeah.
space, where when you're in your van, we have to let the ramp down so that you can get out. So sometimes
Yeah.
that space isn't wide enough for you, or sometimes somebody's parking in that striped place. Yeah, somebody parks over those lines, and it might not seem like a big deal to somebody parking there, but it is a really big deal for you, right? Because that means you can't even get out of your car. So, okay, so that's an obstacle when we're going places where it's sometimes really, really hard to just find a parking space where you can get out of your car. Yeah, and we want to definitely qualify this because we're very, very fortunate to have a wheelchair accessible van, right? A lot of people that use wheelchairs, they don't have these kinds of vans, and they have to rely on public transportation, which is a really difficult thing to do and very time consuming, just getting from one place to another place, relying on the limited number of accessible public transportation vehicles. So we're really fortunate. We should qualify that, right? That we have a really nice wheelchair van that you can get around in. But parking and things like that are a really frustrating thing that we meet on a probably every other day kind of basis. Yeah, it's an every other day kind of thing. And the winter here in Iowa, when it snows, that situation is just so much worse, isn't it? When you go somewhere trying to find a good parking space where we can let your ramp down so you can get out of the car. Yeah. Jerica also asks, how could we do better to help you and other people in wheelchairs? The suspense is killing us here. We're all waiting. Having universal. Are you meaning maybe having the universal design would be in public places? Yeah. Something we've talked about before. So something to help people that are in wheelchairs is that public places would always have universal design in mind. And universal design just means that the public space, the entrance, everything would just be designed with everyone in mind. And that includes people with mobility issues. So that's a way to make a really big difference for people with disabilities, especially people that use wheelchairs, to design public spaces with universal design. Yeah. Okay. So going on, just real briefly, we'll just try to get to one more question from Jerica. She said, how do you handle going into uncharted territories? And do you have to scout out new places before going there, or call ahead to make sure it is accessible?
Yeah, we have to do both.
We do. We actually have to do a lot of research, don't we, before we just want to go maybe to like a state park that we've never been to or something. We do a lot of research beforehand so that we can make sure it's going to be a place that you're going to be able to get there. And sometimes we can do all the research in the world, and then we get somewhere and there's maybe like one step, and then you can't go. We can't go. Right? One or two steps, and that prevents you when you're in your power wheelchair from going to the place. Jerica also says, are there online resources that can help you when you're trying to go into uncharted territory? And here in Iowa, we actually did this research this summer. We were wanting to know if there was a website that would talk about accessibility features for our state parks here in Iowa. And I called actually quite a few people to try to find out, and it seems like the answer, as far as I can tell, is no. There's not one collected resource for somebody that has mobility issues, somebody that uses a wheelchair, where you can go and find out what parks like have paved paths and things like of that nature. So it's something that maybe is on the back burner for another project that we could do together. So something that we might look to in the future. So thanks, Jerica, for those great questions. We really appreciate that you wrote and you were wanting to know about those things and gave us the opportunity to share a little bit more about accessibility, which is something that Laura and I really feel very passionate about. And we don't hesitate when we go to some business that has a really bad accessibility, especially with parking, and we don't hesitate anymore to talk to them, and we make sure that we offer a solution. So maybe, if you just made your accessible parking here instead of there, look at how much easier that would be for a person in a wheelchair to safely get up to the door of your business. And we've been really fortunate that we have gone back to places where we've talked to the manager and we've seen them make the changes, and that feels really good to know that they listened to us, but that it made a difference for all the people coming after us who are in wheelchairs or have any kind of mobility issues. So that felt really good when we went back to places and we saw that. So, all right. Well, thank you again for joining us for Living with the Leukodystrophy. We really appreciate that. And if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments for us. We love to get them. We have another question that we're going to do later this week from Anne in Canada, who wrote us and asked another question. So we'll do another episode where Laura's going to answer a question from another viewer. So thank you very much, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. And again, if you meet somebody with a leukodystrophy today, just say hello, give them a smile, and just let them know that you care. So thank you.